All right, so today we're diving into What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, and it's all about self-talk, right? And like how it shapes our lives. And we've got a stack of your notes and highlights here that we're going to unpack.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so Helmstetter digs into this idea that it's not just about the thoughts we're aware of,
Right.
but it's like the unconscious stuff.
Yeah, that background chatter that we don't even realize is kind of running the show.
And he makes this pretty bold claim, doesn't he?
He does.
That like 77% of
Yeah.
our self-talk is actually like working against us.
That's a big number.
Which isn't exactly a confidence booster when you first read that.
No, it is a bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
But, he argues that so many of the solutions that we try to find are like these temporary bandages.
Okay.
They're external fixes.
Mm.
And to truly change behavior, we need to go inward.
Mm-hmm.
We need to rewrite that internal program, which is our self-talk.
So it's almost like instead of looking for outward fixes, we need to change like the software, not just the hardware.
Precisely. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
updating the operating system of your mind.
Wow. I like that.
And all of our experiences, both the good and the bad, actually end up kind of creating this code that we run on.
And so much of that code gets written early on, right?
Absolutely.
He talks about this idea of unconscious conditioning, which I think is a really important concept. So
Yeah.
what does that actually mean?
Well, it means that we absorb beliefs from our environment, especially in childhood, without even realizing it.
Okay.
And, he actually shares his own story about being told that he had no musical talent as a kid, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy until he actually challenged that programming.
It's like someone installed this mental block
Mm-hmm.
and you never even questioned whether it was true.
Absolutely, and it can really shape our reality.
Yeah, and he tells that story of little Michael, whose creativity was stifled by constant negativity. So that's unconscious conditioning in action, right?
It is building that wall of self-doubt one brick at a time.
And he actually uses the wall metaphor to describe how this negative self-talk holds us back.
It's a powerful image.
It is. And, we all have those phrases.
Oh, yeah, we all have.
Like, I'm not good enough, or I always mess things up.
Oh, for sure.
That one gets me.
He has a whole list of these common negative phrases that people say.
Yeah, what are some others?
Like, I can't remember names. I'm terrible with money.
Mm-hmm.
And those things can become really ingrained.
They do.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got this kind of like negative programming running in the background.
Right.
How do we even begin to change that? It seems so overwhelming.
Well, he provides a really helpful model called the self-management sequence.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah. It's a 5-step thing, right?
It is, and it really breaks down how our thoughts and actions are connected.
Okay, walk me through those steps again.
So it starts with behavior,
Okay.
then feelings, then attitudes,
Mm-hmm.
then beliefs, and finally programming.
So those are the 5.
Yes, and what's interesting is that each step kind of builds upon the previous one.
Okay, I'm with you.
So our actions, our behavior is driven by our feelings,
Mm-hmm.
but those feelings are shaped by our attitudes.
Right.
And our attitudes are rooted in our beliefs, and ultimately those beliefs are the result of our programming.
So it's like peeling back the layers of an onion to get to the core issue.
Exactly. And to change our behavior, we have to go all the way back to the root, which is that programming.
And that's where conscious self-talk comes in.
Right.
Okay.
So that's where we start to take control.
So he gives us this framework he calls the 5 levels of self-talk.
Yeah, have you ever thought about self-talk in terms of levels?
I mean, not really.
It's kind of like leveling up in a game, right?
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah, so you start at level 1, which is that negative self-talk we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and you gradually move up to level 5, which is the most positive and powerful level.
And what's that called?
Universal affirmation.
Universal affirmation.
Yeah, it sounds pretty grand, but it's about aligning your self-talk with some pretty powerful principles.
Wow, so we're talking like a complete transformation.
Yeah, it's a journey, but it's worth it.
So tell me more about those higher levels, like 4 and 5.
Okay, well, level 4 is called self-talk for problem solving.
Okay.
And it's about using self-talk intentionally to overcome challenges and achieve goals.
So it's not just about like feeling good.
No, it's about taking action.
Okay.
And it's about becoming your own coach,
I like that.
using those positive affirmations to guide your actions.
So you're like giving yourself a pep talk.
In a way, yes, but it's more than that.
Okay.
It's about shifting your mindset to one that's focused on solutions and possibilities.
And then what about level 5? Universal affirmation.
Yes, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It's about connecting to a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
Aligning your self-talk with universal truths and principles like love abundance and service to others.
So it's like going beyond just personal gain.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing your place in the larger scheme of things.
That's powerful.
And Helmstetter provides some really powerful techniques for reaching these higher levels.
Okay, so we've talked about those levels and how they build on each other.
Right.
But this is where Helmstetter challenges that typical think positive approach.
Yeah, he's not a fan of just slapping on a happy face.
So why does he say it doesn't work?
Well, he uses this great analogy.
Oh, yeah, what is it?
He compares it to furniture.
Furniture. Okay.
Yeah, so he says simply adding positive thoughts without removing the negative ones is like putting a new sofa in a room full of broken chairs.
I get it.
It doesn't really change the overall atmosphere, does it?
No, not really.
So we can't just cover up the negativity. We need to actually replace it.
So we've got to get rid of those broken chairs.
Exactly. It's about actively removing that old mental furniture and bringing in new pieces that support growth and well-being.
So it's like a mental makeover.
It is, and it takes effort and intention.
Okay, so this connects to his idea of the motivation myth, right?
It does.
Which I think is super interesting.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And he's basically saying we need to ditch those external motivators.
Things like rewards, punishments, even those rah-rah pep talks.
Okay.
They can work temporarily,
Sure.
but they don't create lasting change.
Like the sports team that only performs well when the coach is yelling at them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their motivation is coming from outside, not from within.
So true motivation has to come from within.
It does. But how do we cultivate that?
Yeah, where does that even come from?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And that's where self-talk comes in, by consciously choosing positive, empowering thoughts.
Yeah.
We build that internal motivation that's not dependent on all those external factors.
So we become like our own coach.
Exactly, your own cheerleader.
But for someone who's stuck in that rut of negativity,
Yeah.
where do they even begin? It feels so overwhelming.
Well, the first step is awareness.
Right.
Just start paying attention to that inner dialogue.
Mm.
What are you saying to yourself, especially when things get tough?
Mm-hmm.
And once you're aware of those patterns,
Yeah.
you can start to challenge them.
So it's like catching yourself in the act, being
Yeah.
like, hold on, brain, why are we being so harsh right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Question those negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is this really true? Or what evidence do I have to support this belief? And you'll often find that those negative thoughts are based on old programming that's no longer serving you.
Like those limiting beliefs we talked about earlier.
Exactly. The ones we pick up in childhood and carry with us.
Okay, so we challenge the negativity.
Yeah.
But then what? Do we just try to think happy thoughts all the time?
Well, it's not about forcing positivity. It's about replacing those negative thoughts with more empowering ones.
Okay.
And Helmstetter offers a whole toolbox of techniques to make this happen.
Right. He talks about silent self-talk, self-conversation, and written self-talk.
Those are some of the big ones, and the key is consistency.
Okay.
It's like working a muscle.
Yeah.
The more you practice replacing those negative thoughts with positive ones,
Yeah.
the stronger those neural pathways become.
So it becomes a habit, almost like a reflex.
Exactly.
To think more positively.
Yes, and he tells this really compelling story about a woman who was struggling to find a job.
Okay.
She was so discouraged, she couldn't even bring herself to make phone calls for interviews.
I can relate to that feeling of hopelessness.
It's easy to get stuck in that spiral.
Yeah.
But she started using self-talk, specifically the self-conversation technique.
Okay.
And instead of overwhelming herself with the whole job search,
Right.
she just focused on making one phone call.
Okay.
And then she would tell herself, okay, I can make one more.
So breaking it down into manageable steps.
Yes, and using self-talk as that encouragement along the way.
Wow.
And eventually she landed a job.
That's amazing.
It is. And it really illustrates how those small shifts in self-talk can lead to significant results.
That's a great example.
It shows that even if you don't believe it at first, the act of repeating those positive statements can really start to shift things.
For sure. And Helmstetter provides a bunch of specific scripts for different areas of life, like work relationships, even overcoming fears.
It's like having a cheat sheet for positive self-talk.
Okay, that's super helpful.
It is.
So he's basically giving you the words to reprogram your mind.
Right.
But it's not just about repeating any old positive phrase.
No.
He stresses being really specific.
Yeah, it's about intentionality.
Okay.
So instead of vaguely saying, I want to be healthier, you might say, I choose to nourish my body with nutritious foods.
So it's like giving your subconscious mind clear instructions,
Exactly.
not just some vague hopes and wishes.
Right. The more specific and directed your self-talk is, the more effectively you can reprogram those deep-seated beliefs.
Okay, now one thing that I thought was really interesting is this idea that Helmstetter talks about that many people have a subconscious fear of success.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It is.
Why would anyone be afraid of succeeding?
Well, he says that success can bring all sorts of things that maybe we're not prepared for,
Like what?
like change, responsibility,
Oh, yeah.
even scrutiny.
Right.
And if you're not prepared for those things, or if you don't feel worthy, you might unconsciously sabotage yourself.
So it's like holding yourself back before anyone else can.
Exactly. But by acknowledging and addressing that fear through self-talk,
Yeah.
we can overcome it.
Or we can, those affirmations like, I am worthy of success. I embrace the challenges that come with growth.
It's like giving yourself permission to succeed.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, another big idea that Helmstetter emphasizes is that we are creators, not just passive recipients of life.
Oh, that's a huge one, isn't it?
It is, and it's so empowering.
It is. It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape our reality through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
So we're not just victims of circumstance.
We are not.
We have agency.
We do. And that's a really important distinction to make.
And so instead of asking, why is this happening to me, we should be asking, how can I learn from this? Or what can I do to change this?
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for our lives.
Even the parts that seem out of our control.
Yes. And this actually connects to his point about luck.
He says that we create our own luck.
He does.
How is that even possible?
Well, it's not about magic, you know?
Okay.
It's about mindset.
Oh, okay.
When you focus on the positive, when you believe in yourself and your abilities, you open yourself up to opportunities that you might have otherwise missed.
It's not that lucky things suddenly start happening.
Right.
It's more that we're better equipped to recognize and seize those opportunities when they do arise.
You become more attuned to those possibilities, and that can feel like luck.
Yeah.
But it's really just a byproduct of a positive and proactive mindset.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've talked about changing those deep-seated beliefs.
Right.
But what about changing habits? It seems like that's where a lot of people struggle.
Well, he dedicates a whole chapter to that.
He does.
He does. And
Yeah.
again, self-talk is key.
Oh,
He stresses being really specific about the new behavior you want to adopt
okay.
and using affirmations that support that change.
So instead of saying, I want to quit smoking, you would say,
Yeah.
I am a non-smoker. I am free from addiction.
Exactly. And repetition is crucial.
Oh.
You're essentially rewiring your brain, replacing those old habit patterns with new, healthier ones.
So you're creating new neural pathways.
You are. And the more you reinforce them, the stronger they become.
And he also talks about the importance of visualizing yourself successfully engaging in that new behavior, right?
Yes, visualization is a powerful tool.
Okay.
It's about creating a mental image of the new you, the you who embodies that desired habit.
So you're kind of like acting as if.
You are. And the more vivid and detailed that visualization, the more powerful it becomes.
That's cool. And he reminds us that setbacks are normal.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
Yes, it's about that journey.
This is really resonating with me. It feels like a much more empowered way to approach personal growth.
Mm.
You know, taking ownership rather than relying on willpower or external pressure.
It's about tapping into that inner strength.
Mm.
And that's the heart of Helmstetter's message.
Mm. And he doesn't just stop at the individual level.
No, he doesn't.
He applies these principles to relationships as well.
He does, and it makes sense when you think about it.
Right. He talks about how our self-talk can actually influence how others perceive and treat us.
Yeah, it's almost like our thoughts create this ripple effect in our interactions.
So if you're constantly putting yourself down
Yeah.
or expecting the worst from others, you're more likely to attract those negative experiences.
Unfortunately, yes, our thoughts can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
But if you approach relationships with positive expectations
Mm-hmm.
and believe in the best in others,
Yeah,
then you create a more harmonious and fulfilling dynamic.
absolutely. It's not
Yeah.
about being naive. It's about choosing to see the good, even when it's challenging.
And he also stresses the importance of forgiveness,
Oh, yes, forgiveness is crucial.
both of ourselves and others.
It is, especially in relationships where there's been hurt or conflict.
Why is that so important?
Because holding on to anger and resentment just creates more negativity.
Okay.
It blocks the flow of love and connection. Forgiveness is about releasing those negative emotions
Mm-hmm.
and making space for healing.
So it's like clearing out the clutter.
It is to make room for something new and positive.
Okay, this is all making sense.
Good.
But we haven't talked much about that highest level of self-talk, universal affirmation.
Ah, yes, that's the peak of the mountain.
So what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it's about connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
Aligning your thoughts and beliefs with universal truths like love, abundance, and joy.
So it's almost spiritual in a way.
It can be. It's about tapping into a sense of purpose and meaning that transcends the individual ego.
Okay, and Helmstetter encourages people to explore their own spiritual beliefs and practices.
He does whatever they may be to connect to this higher power.
So it's about finding what resonates with you.
Exactly, and using it to fuel your self-talk and create a life filled with meaning and joy.
This all sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put it into practice? It can't just be about thinking positive thoughts all the time.
Well, Helmstetter is clear that self-talk alone is not enough.
Okay.
We need to take action.
Okay.
He encourages setting clear goals, creating action plans, and consistently taking steps towards those goals.
So it's like having a car with a full tank of gas, but you actually have to put it in drive and step on the gas pedal?
Exactly. Action creates momentum. The more you do, the more motivated you become to keep going. It's like a snowball effect.
And this is where persistence comes in.
Yes.
Right? Even when we hit those roadblocks or those setbacks.
Absolutely. Setbacks are a natural part of the process.
Right.
It's not about being perfect. It's about getting back up and continuing to move forward.
This whole idea of self-talk as a tool for creating change, it's powerful stuff.
It is.
But it's a lot to digest. What are some key takeaways for our listener?
Well, I think the biggest one is that we are not victims of our past programming.
Okay.
We have the power to choose our thoughts and beliefs. And in doing so, we have the power to shape our reality.
It's like taking back control of the narrative of our lives.
Exactly. And remember, self-talk is a skill that can be developed and strengthened with practice.
It's like a muscle.
It is. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
So don't get discouraged if it feels awkward or challenging at first.
Right.
Just keep practicing, keep experimenting with different techniques, and most importantly, keep believing in your ability to create the life you want.
And one last thought.
Yeah.
Helmstetter focuses on individual transformation. But imagine the impact if we scaled this up. Families, workplaces, even entire societies consciously shifting their self-talk.
Wow, it's like a collective consciousness raising.
It is. What kind of world could we create if everyone embraced the power of positive self-talk?
That's something to ponder.
It is. It's a possibility worth striving for.
It really is, and it makes you think like how much of what we consider reality is actually just a reflection of our own self-talk.
That's a good question.
Yeah, if we change the conversation inside our heads, could we actually change the world outside of us?
That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
Helmstetter provides us with all these tools.
He does.
But it's really up to each of us to apply them and to see what's possible.
To see what we can create.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he leaves us with this challenge.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
What positive self-talk scripts could you start using today to create the changes you want in your life?
It's a call to action. It's not just think differently, but live differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about taking those insights and actually putting them into practice.
So experimenting with those different techniques, those levels of self-talk.
Yeah, and being patient with yourself. It's a journey, not a quick fix.
Well, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about.
I hope so.
This deep dive into Shad Helmstetter's What to Say When You Talk to Yourself has been pretty eye-opening.
It's a good one.
It's a reminder that we all have this power to shape our reality.
We do.
One thought, one word, one action at a time.
And who knows, maybe by changing our own internal dialogue, we can actually inspire others to do the same.
Oh, wow.
Create this ripple effect of positive change that extends far beyond ourselves.
That's a beautiful thought. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep those positive affirmations flowing.